gain valuable feels part of something impactful. So we truly appreciate your participation and support. And really, this chapter belongs to everyone. So please stay engaged, ask questions, and consider getting involved. With that, I pass it over again to Fred to introduce our guest speaker. Thank you all.
Yeah, the membership to join this nonprofit organization is 225 and a year. But if you're a student, it costs you 65. But then you get access to the network, lots of material, technical, basically recommendation and standard practices and webinars as well. So I welcome again everyone and our guest speaker, Mr. Akin Oni. CEO and managing partner of FTEX Group. Akin is a mega project and a strategy executive, a board member, and a thought leader whose career spans over 3 decades across continents, industries, and cultures. From the oil fields of West Africa to mining hubs of Australia and Latin America, the frozen frontiers of Canada and the energy corridors of the United States, UK, and Japan, he has led or advised on some of the world's most complex and consequential projects. An engineer and project manager by training, Akin is a strategic advisor by calling. So I invited Akin to start this webinar, and it's going to be very insightful, and I pass it over to Akin. Thank you, Akin.
Thank you, Fred. Mega project performance is determined long before execution begins. Today, I will be challenging you, whether you are a project controls professional, or you just work on projects, or you are a project management professional. You could be a practitioner, you could be a professional, or maybe you're an engineer or a generalist. The challenge will be to attempt to move you beyond just focusing on schedule and cost performance and step into what I call decision leadership. Through real-world use cases and structured frameworks, we will rub minds on how early commitments shape long-term outcomes, especially how to protect decision integrity when stakes are highest. If you gain only one insight in the next hour, I would really like it to be this: the fact that your career is not defined by how well you report schedule and cost. Instead, it is defined by how early you influence the decisions that shape them. Because I firmly believe that once a professional understands that schedule and costs are downstream reflections of upstream choices, they stop waiting for execution to begin before they actually lead. They start asking better questions at the front end. They become more disciplined about assumptions. They protect baseline integrity. They speak up earlier. And something shifts in their identity. They move from being seen as the person who explains variances, which I know some of us are very good at, to the professional who prevents those variances. That shift changes their confidence. It changes how executives perceive project controls people or project managers. It changes the rooms they are invited into. And over time, hopefully, it changes their career trajectory. If one thing changes today, I want it to be this: stop thinking about yourselves as project controllers or just project managers in the narrow sense, and start seeing yourselves as guardians of decision integrity and stewards of capital outcomes, because that's who we are. When you lead a team on a project, whether you are the project manager, the project controls manager, the cost engineering manager, the planning and scheduling manager, the project engineering manager, whatever your role is, you are not just in that role Instead, you are guardians of decision integrity and stewards of capital outcomes. This does not just improve projects, it elevates a mutually cherished profession of cost engineering and project management. But I will need your support because we will need to achieve certain things together during this session today. And what is that? It is the fact that you understand what your role is. You are playing that role very well, and you are helping your organizations to be that of value because you are co-owning the decisions that are being made on your project. With that said, good day, everyone, and many thanks to you all for joining this session today. Special thanks to my freshest professional friend, Fred Hara, who actually spotted me in DC last October and advised me to consider speaking at the San Francisco Bay Area AAC section. Fred, I really appreciate the wonderful introduction and you've been the bridge that led me into being able to speak here this afternoon. I also would like to appreciate the leaders of the section for saying yes to Fred. With all that said, let me begin with a simple but uncomfortable question. How many of us have worked on a project that was, number one, executed with discipline, tracked rigorously, reported accurately, and still struggle to achieve great schedule and cost outcomes? Remember, it was a project that was executed with discipline. It was tracked very well. It was reported accurately. Yet, the project struggled to achieve great schedule and cost outcomes. I will probably tell you that I have. Across energy, mining, infrastructure, and public sector programs on multiple continents, as Fred noted earlier, I have seen technically strong teams fight bravely during execution. But by the time execution began, the outcome was already leaning in one direction, which is going south. Not because of poor performance, but because of early decisions. Decisions made under optimism, under schedule pressure, under incomplete scope definition, under governance shortcuts. And here's the truth, and the old truth. Execution excellence cannot rescue weak early commitments. Think about that for a second. Execution excellence cannot rescue weak early commitments. What that should mean to you is this. You may have a world-class execution team, but if the decisions that drove the FID package that was approved to be executed, if those decisions were weak, it's going to take a lot more effort. It's going to cost a lot more money. It's going to take a little longer for you to be able to revive that investment and bring it back on track. So schedule and cost do not collapse randomly, as some people believe. They reflect the quality of decision made long before the first shovel actually hit the ground on site. These poor decisions might relate to the license to operate. Many a time we start some projects and we don't have the full license to actually execute the work. That could be a challenge. Other poor decisions could relate to team composition. Do you have the right people and right number at the right time? Another problem could be scope development, especially through poor opportunity framing. Another could be risk assessment. Maybe the risk wasn't assessed right, or maybe those who came together to actually assess the risk, they are not really competent in the subject matter of that project. And it could be relating to time and cost estimate. And most of the time in the course of this presentation this afternoon, when I use the word estimates, I'm not just talking about cost, I'm also talking about time, which some people call schedule. Some other poor decisions could relate to communication protocol and stakeholder management planning. We didn't clearly define how we are going to communicate with the different stakeholders. We didn't actually assess who our key stakeholders are so that we understand who they are, where they sit in the stakeholder priority metrics, and what their expectations are, and so on and so forth. So today, I want to challenge one mindset. The mindset that
Akin, we lost your voice.
no, you are not. Can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes, we can. Okay.
Okay. You are not just a project controller. In my view, you are custodians of decision integrity. You are guardians of schedule and cost realism. You are often the first to see the signal before the noise becomes a crisis. Therefore, the session today is about moving from reporting outcomes to shaping the decisions that determine them. If mega project schedule and cost are important to you, then here are 7 ideas that I would like to share with you today. Let's begin. Number 1, mega project success is decided before execution begins. Yes, you heard me right. Mega project success is actually decided before execution begins. Excuse me. Whether your project succeeds, whether your project fails, it's really not something that you determine or decide during execution. More than 90% of the time, the success is actually defined and determined during the pre-FID stages. Here is my reason. Execution is visible. Yes, you can see it's visible, but decisions are invisible. However, decisions determine trajectory. By the time mobilization begins, the investment probability curve is already shaped. Yes, I say that again. By the time mobilization begins, the investment probability curve is already shaped. Next, execution does not kill projects. Flawed early decisions do. And don't get me wrong. There are times when, if you don't have a strong execution team, they may kill good projects. When you don't have a strong execution team, they may kill good projects. But most of the time, what we see, because I've been privileged to review mega projects across continents, one of the commonest factors is most of the time, mega projects that fail, they actually fail before FID. The execution stage just unearths the failure factors. So when projects struggle, we often blame contractors. Sometimes we even blame productivity. Sometimes we even say, oh no, it's failed performance, that was poor. But in many cases, schedule and cost stress were embedded, which some people will say they were baked in at sanction. Execution only reveals what early optimism concealed. Next, schedule and cost are consequences, not root causes. Schedule slippage and cost growth, they are signals. And what those signals tell us include something upstream was improperly framed. Something upstream was incomplete. Something upstream was underestimated. Or maybe something upstream was accelerated without readiness. And that's actually very common, where leaders will say, oh yeah, you haven't finished that work during the feed stage, don't worry, we will complete it during execution. It's not a crime if you do that, but then we need to make sure we bake in the right quantum of risks to be able to manage the incomplete scope. But the recommendation usually is finish your work. Don't be in a haste. Frame your scope properly. Have the right team. Make sure you understand your scope very well. Understand the risks. Come up with a schedule that is risk-driven, and come up with a cost estimate that is risk-driven. Because if we treat them, that is schedule and cost, as root causes, I'm sorry to say, the bad news is that we are solving the wrong problem. Next is what I call optimism bias. When you bundle that on top of schedule pressure and you bundle that on top of governance shortcuts, what you get is very easy to define. It's predictable failure. Because these forces really show up on dashboards, but they quietly shape assumptions. If project controls does not surface them early, they compound silently. And I take that again. Whether it's optimism bias, whether it's schedule pressure, or maybe you even have governance team that are emotionally attached to the project. If a project controller or even a project manager, if you don't surface these issues early, they compound silently. Next is if scope maturity is weak, schedule and cost certainty is merely a fiction. You cannot compress uncertainty by adjusting numbers. And I know businesses do that from time to time. Yeah, we don't know this. Yeah, we're just going to allow this in the FID number so that we will use that to fix it during execution. You need to understand the uncertainty. What is it that you know? What don't you know? The first question is, don't you have time to fully explore the uncertainty so that you know it before you hit FID? If scope definition is immature, schedule ranges and cost ranges must reflect that reality. Integrity begins with intellectual honesty. Because if you are not honest, and I've said that, I recall in 2006, I had the uncommon privilege of looking at a deep water project in the Gulf of Mexico. And I remember 90 days before I showed up, I had asked the scheduler, I said, share with me your schedule in XER format. And those who understand scheduling, they know what I'm talking about. This guy refused and ignored my request. On the first day of the review, I showed up in the room where they presented the entire project to us. And I turned to the scheduler. I said, Mr. Scheduler, imagine that I'm a world-class scheduler. I can run, I understand the mechanics behind even Primavera Project Planner. I can set up, validate, and establish a meaningful mega project schedule. I said, what should this 11 by 17 beautifully printed 150-page document, what should it mean to me? And the guys were scared. He paused for a moment and he said nothing. True life story. His colleagues, they nearly lynched him in that room. Please note, I don't know who I'm talking to. You may be a project controller, you may be a project manager, you may be a scheduler, you may be a cost estimator. Remember, integrity begins with intellectual honesty. Can you be content to be intellectually honest? Next, which is kind of the way I'm going to wrap up this section, which is more of the concluding part of this section. Project controls is not a reporting function. It's a decision discipline. If you are a project manager, you are listening to me this afternoon, or maybe you are even a specialist in opportunity framing, or you are a risk analyst, or you are an executive board member, or irrespective of your role, or maybe you are even an investor. Let's always remember, times have gone by for us to keep looking at project controls as a reporting function. Instead, it's a decision discipline. Because as controllers, we don't merely measure performance, we test assumptions, we quantify risk, we inform commitments. This is what I call decision leadership. Again, I say, project controls is not a reporting function anymore. It's a decision discipline. And that's who we are. Because of that, please do yourself, your career, and maybe your family a favor. Before you endorse or approve a commitment, ask, are we truly ready? What that should mean to you is this. And I've asked these difficult questions in my career. And everything that I'm telling you this afternoon, they are not things that I read in the books. They are based on my lived experience across continents. When I say before you endorse, because you may not have the authority, and most of the time you don't have the authority to be the final approver. If you endorse something for higher up authority to approve, okay, we are committing to executing this project. Please ask yourself the question. Maybe you even got too emotional about the project. Please remove those emotions and go on the other side of the desk and ask the question, are we truly ready? What that should mean to you is, was the opportunity properly framed? Is the scope sufficiently defined? Have major risks been quantified into schedule and cost ranges? Were dissenting views heard? Very important. What must be true for this plan to hold? Friends, fellow professionals, if we cannot answer these questions, readiness is incomplete. Therefore, I want you to do yourself a favor today on your project, whether it is the current project or your next project. Remember, our responsibility as practitioner is to make sure we protect decision integrity. Because I know if we do, schedule and cost will follow. Schedule and cost discipline are not downstream mechanics. They are reflections of upstream courage. Protect the decision and the investment standards charge. Be careless about the decision and you kill the investment early. And majority of the time, you know when you do that, in most businesses that I know, you are probably going to lose your job. Some people around you will lose their job. Your family may be in trouble for whatever reason. So that's why it's very important for us to do our work with integrity. And I understand that there are instances when, as a project controllers, you may have higher up authorities giving you directions that, oh, no, this is what you should do. Let me give you an example. There was a time in Europe, I was asked to present a project to a board. And I presented this project. And a lady I'll never forget in my entire career, she just looked at me and said, Akin, I need you to go back with the team and reduce the capex by 10%. And I looked at her and I said, respectfully, I will go back and we're going to reduce the capex by 10% as well as the scope by 10%. And she said, no. Lo and behold, I was actually removed from that project. And somebody else was mobilized to the project. True life situation. 24 months later, they were looking for me that, Akin, this project is in trouble. We need you to come back and help us fix it. Think about that. Not everyone will be as lucky as I was then, because some people, they will get rid of you from the project and they'll never call you back. Always remember, protect decision integrity, because if you do, I firmly believe schedule and cost will follow. But you may be hearing me and you're going, okay, Akin, what really are my role or my roles in all this? Let me give you 7 of what I consider your roles to be. Number 1, as a controller, because I know we have more project controllers and even some project managers too. We have them on this call. You are the quantifier of uncertainty. That means you are responsible for translating incomplete scope into realistic schedule ranges and cost ranges, not false precision. And that's why I tell people, sometimes people ask me in the workplace, Akin, what do you actually do? I say, well, my role is very simple. I tell the leaders the way things are so that they can make decisions. Whether they want to go left, they want to go right, or they want to go in the direction that I'm recommending, that is what they are being paid to do. I am only being paid to be honest and be realistic with what we know we can deliver without maybe baking ridiculous contingencies, without overstating it, but making sure that I've leveraged the views of key players. I've leveraged the views of key performers, experts, or SMEs as we call them on the project. Number 2, you are guardian of assumptions. Many times when I go to review a mega project, people will send me schedule and they send me cost estimate. They'll even send me the risk register. But when I ask them, okay, can somebody please send me the basis of this document? Or say, oh yeah, we discussed it during the different review sessions. I said, I wasn't there. So I will need to understand the basis. Otherwise, these deliverables, they make 0 sense to me. So please, as controllers, or as project manager, because today I'm speaking to the average scheduler, to the average cost estimator, average project controller, average project manager. You are guardians of assumptions. Document the key schedule and cost assumptions and ensure they are visible, stress tested, and owned. Next one is you are the challenger of optimism bias. We need to make sure that we objectively test aggressive timelines, cost targets against historical data and benchmarking. Next, scope maturity interpreter. We need to be the ones that will tell everyone, look, this is my understanding of how mature this scope is. We need to be able to assess whether the level of engineering definition truly supports the proposed schedule and cost confidence levels. We need to be able to demonstrate to the stakeholders that, okay, we had an opportunity framing session. This is the name of the facilitator. Here are the subject matter experts that participated in the opportunity framing. And this is what led us into defining what the scope or into configuring, like I say sometimes, because there are some mega projects that are super mega that you have to configure them into manageable chunks so that they could be delivered. It is your responsibility. And even if somebody else is assigned to do that on your project, as the controller, you've got to keep a copy of that. Because change is the only constant. And when change happens, you may not be there to defend yourself if you don't plan for it early. All right. You are risk integrator. You ensure that quantified risk is embedded into schedule and cost modeling rather than treated as an afterthought. I'm going to toggle through this real quick. You are governance integrity advocate. I actually function like this on most of my projects in my career, whereby even though I don't work within the governance team, except I am just appointed one-off to leave my project and go to another project and review it. But on the project that I am a part of the execution team, I usually function as the governance integrity advocate by saying that, look, see me as the local governance guy, helping you all to answer questions that the governance team members will ask us when they come in to review our project. So encourage structured review gates and ensure dissenting technical and commercial views are captured before commitment. Then we're capital steward. We need to recognize that early schedule and cost modeling influences investment decisions that may impact shareholders, communities, and decades of operational performance. So in summary, here's how I'm going to end those 7 points. Robust early project controls work is investment protection. Think about that. And project controls is not the work of just one person or just one discipline. As a robust project controls team, you get inputs from a lot of sources for you to be able to do your work. And that is why, because you are kind of at the receiving end of the input parameters, you should be able to challenge whatever people are sending you that you don't fully align with. 2 quick use cases, and I'm in the interest of time, I'm not going to dwell for too long on it. I'm just going to read it out. Use case number 1, the compressed to compete LNG expansion. This was a case of a multi-billion-dollar LNG expansion. Just permit me to read what I have on the slide here. It was a case of a multi-billion-dollar LNG expansion in North America, which was racing to secure capital approval before competitors reached FID. This particular project, the stakeholders, all they wanted to do was they've targeted like a marketing window based on their assessment of the market environment where volumes will be done. So they wanted to be able to be ready to meet that marketing window 3.5 years down the road. So they worked backwards to today for them to be able to come up with a schedule. It can be challenging to be able to achieve that. And that on this particular project, when they said they were ready for FID, engineering definition was just about midway. The executive narrative was clear. We must approve now or lose market window. Most of the time when I review mega projects and I hear the word, the statement, this project is strategic, I begin to shake. Because I know once people start playing the project is strategic game or card, you realize that they are probably sweeping a few things under the rug. So as the independent peer reviewer, you have to open your eyes, you have to open your mind, you have to listen to what they are telling you, you have to particularly think about what they are not telling you that you need to try and unearth. And then, of course, the schedule presented as sanction on that project showed an aggressive completion date because they wanted it to be aligned with commercial offtake expectations. And then during a review, I recall on that project that a scheduler quietly noted, hey, guys, critical path logic was heavily overlapped. Vendor lead times were assumed at best case duration. Risk modeling showed PAT completion almost 8 months later than the published baseline. But the narrative had already formed. As I noted here, approval was granted. You know what? Normally in a formal masterclass workshop setting, where we'll actually talk about it, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to tell you how I feel about it. So 2 years later, this particular investment, the schedule actually slipped. The cost of the project, the CapEx, increased due to extended indirects and escalation. Public explanation, interestingly, focused just on supply chain and labor productivity. They didn't actually tell people about what really happened or the cost of the overrun. But internally, the root cause was different. The schedule and cost exposure were visible before approval. They were simply not decision weighted. And here's the lesson. If quantified risk is not embedded into the commitment narrative early, it becomes tomorrow's explanation, which in my view can be tough, it can be painful, and it may even lead to credibility and or job loss. Project controllers, project practitioners, project professionals, beware. The second use case is that of an infrastructure program that appeared to be on budget, but the SVP of project at that entity realized that somewhere here, she wasn't really comfortable with the report of being on budget. This was a public infrastructure program. I was asked to come in there and take a look at it and just advise the SVP. So it was a public infrastructure program that reported healthy performance metrics for almost 18 months. Despite that, the SVP wasn't particularly comfortable that something was wrong, but she just couldn't put her fingers on what was wrong. Because the AND value looked strong, schedule variance was minimal, cost trending within contingency. But one project controller that I spoke to told me that he asked a deeper question, which everybody ignored, that what assumptions must hold for this performance to continue. So hidden in the early sanction assumptions were, number one, utility relocation complexity was grossly underestimated. Regulatory approvals assume everything is going to be, as we say, hunky-dory, just sequential approval without appeals. That the community is just going to approve everything. They're going to be saying yes, yes to it. But we know in real life it doesn't happen. Productivity was benchmarked against a different labor market. Normally, at this point, I will ask you, what do you think happened at that project? But let me go ahead. I'll say, when the first regulatory delay hit, the schedule margin evaporated. The project did not fail because of execution. It failed because early assumptions were treated as commitments rather than hypotheses. The lesson here, gentlemen and ladies, the lesson is this: assumptions are future risk in disguise. If you go on any project, whether you are just mobilized as a new project team member or you are going there to review the project, ask for the basis of any deliverable that you are asked to review. Ask for the assumptions document or any investment you are asked to review, because assumptions purely, they are future risk in disguise. Now, here is my reflection exercise. This usually, I spend about 15-30 minutes on this in a formal masterclass setting, but I'm not going to belabor you with it tonight, this afternoon. So, but I'd like you, whoever you are, think of a project that struggles with schedule or cost. What early decisions created the exposure? Did you see it at the time? Did you speak up? If you didn't speak up, what stopped you? So that second bullet, what early decision created the exposure? You don't have to tell us the project. Can you just type something in the chat on that project that you are thinking about? Maybe you've seen it, you weren't even a part of it, or you were a part of it, or you heard about it. What early decision created the exposure? So I like people to go in the chat and just put their thought in there, just for the next 1 to 2 minutes, please. I like people to, so that I know that you're actually hearing me. A project that struggled with schedule or cost. What early decision created the exposure in your view? Yes? Any taker? I haven't seen anything in the chat because chat is going to tell me the number is increasing, but I haven't seen anything. Yes? Anyone? Doesn't have to be your project, so don't be afraid that somebody is going to go tell your boss. There could be a project that you heard about. Okay, I see one. So what was that, Fred? Can you read that down to me?
Yeah,
Okay.
lack of well-defined scope asked by Flusho.
Lack of a well-defined scope. Okay. Thank you very much, that person, for being bold to break the ice. Yes, anyone else? There's another one. Yes?
Yeah. David said promoted a worker to a foreman role early in the time with us. Early in his
Promoted what?
time.
Sorry?
Promoted a worker to a foreman role early in his time with us.
Okay, okay. Yeah, okay. We keep performance role. Okay. Yes, anyone else? Okay. I'm just going to move on just in the interest of time.
Mm-hmm.
But many thanks to those two people that said that. So just again, the difference between reporting and leadership is often one conversation. Many a time, that's really all you need to remember. What conversation are we not having on our project that we should be having? Because where I am right now in my career, I'm on a mission. And I'm saying this out loud because this is recorded. I'm on a mission that any project that I touch will succeed. That's the mission that I'm on right now. We need to stop the state of all these failed mega projects, especially because very, very small percentage of mega projects actually succeed. Shockingly. I'm not going to quote any statistics right now. Very ridiculously low percentage of mega projects actually truly succeed. And remember, success in this context is not just on time, on budget to specifications. No, we're going beyond that now. We are looking at product success. How successful is the product? What value did we actually add to the sponsoring organization? The difference between reporting and leadership is often one conversation. Here is a structured framework, which I call the decision integrity ladder. Level one, there are some organizations, they are just on the level one. All they do is report. They track schedule and cost performance. That's it. How they arrive at that, people don't care that much. Then level two is interpretation. Those are the organizations that have graduated from just reporting to actually explaining variance and trend. Next level to that, I call it the challenge level, which is you actually have an organizational environment where you can question assumptions before approval. And then the next level to that would be protection, wherein you actually embed quantified uncertainty into commitments. And when I use the word commitment, I'm talking about contract or project approval. You are committing the business or the organization or a group of businesses into spending certain amount of money. And then level 5, which we expect for every business organization, especially doing a mega project, is the organizational environment is such that you can influence capital decisions before baseline approval. That is where every organization needs to strive to be. That's what they need to strive to achieve. Because if you are still on level 2, all you do is explain variance and trend. I'm sorry to say, you're not going to get anywhere. But we need to grow systematically until that point where we are able to steward the investments that are committed into our hands. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but usually the question I ask at this point is, where does your organization operate today? That would be too direct, so I'm not going to do that. If we were in an in-person workshop or masterclass, yes, I will be able to do that. But this is not like that, so I'm not going to put anyone on the spot. But you can look at these levels and be able to say, yeah, my organization is still level 2, unfortunately. Or yeah, my organization is still level 1. Or yeah, well, we kind of question assumptions before approval. But we really are not allowed to embed quantified uncertainty into our commitments. let alone being able to influence capital decisions. So you know you're still in level 3. I'll leave that to you.
Akin, a question came up with respect to ridiculous number of mega projects that failed. Flusho asked, do you think those mega projects that failed are due to management issues or funding constraints?
Good question. There are fundamentals for project success. So I actually wrote a paper, I think in 2007. And the title of the paper, project management paper, the title is this: the operation was successful, but the patient died. In there, I listed a number of failure drivers or success factors, if you like, when you just turn it around. So sometimes it could be leadership or management support. Sometimes it's lack of continuity of key people. Sometimes it's there is no desire to minimize and consciously manage change. Sometimes it's there is poor governance, and so on and so forth. So if you want a copy of that paper, I'm happy to share it. I can share it with Fred, who will share it with you, or you connect with me on LinkedIn. Reach out to me, I'll share it with you. I share a lot of information with a lot of people. So I'll be happy to share. But yeah, it could be due to a variety of factors. But some of them are what I've just listed. Sometimes it could be the contracting strategy. As ordinary as that may seem to you on a mega project, if you get your contracting strategy wrong, you are going to be in big, big trouble. But let's leave it there. Thank you. Now, here's what I call the commitment readiness model. If you are working on a project right now, and I'm just going to leave this one out here for now for you to look at. You're working on a project, this commitment readiness model can actually help you to protect the decision such that schedule and cost will follow. It's a structured framework to assess capital commitment readiness before major funding approvals. And it's designed especially for control leaders and project managers who safeguard schedule and cost integrity. And it consists of 4 pillars. But before I do that, I must say to you all that this is very important because schedule and cost overruns are not execution failures. They are commitment failures. And before major funding approval, FID or stage gate authorization, this model helps project control program to assess whether the project is truly ready or simply eager. And my book, Mega Project Development and Decision Making, which will be launching actually next Tuesday. So this book will go into public domain next Tuesday, the 3rd of March, 2026. The business leader who authored the foreword of that book is actually in this audience today. Dr. Leya Wolabi, he is in the audience here today. And thank you so much, Dr. Wolabi, for supporting my work and for joining this session today. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your role in helping a community of professionals to grow. So now back to this commitment readiness model. As I said, it's a structured framework. And there are 4 pillars. I'm not going to be able to go into a lot of detail because for each of these pillars, there are key tests that I perform and there are red flags that I look for. Whether it is scope maturity, which is framing, I can't overstress the significance of framing in all this. And definition sufficient to define schedule and cost confidence. There's the risk visibility. I have key tests that I perform and there are red flags. So if you need me to support any of your project on this, let me know. I will do my best to help you position your project for long-term success. And then, of course, there's the governance integrity. There are some organizations, they say they have a governance body, but you realize that the composition of that body is actually lopsided. They do not form a team that will actually be independent to review the project and be able to tell them the truth and nothing but the truth. And then number 4 is the assumption stress test. There are key questions that I ask. And then, of course, there are red flags. So, and I usually score each of these 4 pillars on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being, yeah, this is really well done. And 1 being not done, Hopefully something was done on each of these so that you don't score 0. But at the end of it all, most of the time, if I assess a project and they are in the 16 to 20 point range, then there's strong commitment readiness. If they fall between 12 and 15, that project needs to proceed with caution because there are challenges, and you just need to understand those challenges and make sure you frame it right. Then below 12, there's a high probability of future schedule and cost stress or cost problems. So here is the professional mandate. As a scheduler, cost estimator, or controller, or project manager, you are not just preparing numbers, you are influencing capital decisions that shape schedule performance, cost stability, organizational credibility, and long-term value creation, which is very important. Silence at the commitment state becomes noise during execution. Remember, and I cannot overstress this, the most expensive schedule and cost overruns are the ones approved before execution begins. I urge you, my fellow professionals, friends, practitioners, investors, executives, project leaders, project controllers, please, the most expensive schedule and cost overrun are the ones approved before execution begins. When execution begins and you start seeing cost overrun or schedule overruns, they were actually approved before that execution starts. So I urge you to please protect the decision. If you do, like I said earlier, schedule and cost will follow. In conclusion, all we want is a satisfied stakeholder. Whether that stakeholder is a direct boss, it may be a organization's leadership team, it may be a board, it may be a group of stakeholders, it may be an investor group. That's all we're trying to accomplish. Now, with that said, schedule and cost overruns are the ones approved before execution begins, as I said earlier. But I want to encourage you, please be the professional who protects decision integrity, because that is the most expensive step you can take on any project. If you protect decision integrity, you save yourself, your organization, your career, a lot of pains down the road. Do we have any other question before I do my call to action for probably about 3-4 minutes? Yes, any question, Ben or Fred?
I do not have a question, but I had one observations and few, let's say, very large mega projects experiences that I got. In some type of projects, basically, the decision makers are local governments or state government authorities that basically they set a goal or visions, or it's like kind of a political kind of an aspect. Like if you want to probably a sample would be like California high-speed rail projects, which is all over the news. The other one would be probably Saudi Arabian NEOM projects that they start with an ambitious goal, and then after sometimes everything start to collapse. Uh, that I guess that part of like communication, educations, or basically translations of what are the real basically mega projects challenges to those decision makers, investors, governors, and vice versa is like one of the aspects that I feel has not been addressed maybe well enough. And basically this hierarchy of decision makers collapse from top to bottom.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I mean, if you are working for the government, maybe you are a government contractor, and like the example that you gave, the high-speed rail project, yeah, it can be challenging, but you have to understand who your stakeholders are. That was why I talked about stakeholder management earlier. We need to, number one, who are my stakeholders? What is their experience on a project of this magnitude? What is the history behind past projects that they've done? Do we have the lessons learned? That will give you an idea of how best to approach that project.
Mm-hmm.
Without understanding, that was, I also mentioned it when you asked one of the questions, that when I talk about leadership or management support, I'm not just talking about the leadership and management support of your business, but of your client's business. You need to understand that. Do they really have any appetite to really execute a successful project? Do they set themselves up? So we need to understand all this. So again, this is more of a 2 to 3 hour masterclass if we're going to use different scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
But I just kind of bucketed everything, people like that or groups like that under leadership or management support.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need to understand them, to your point. Because some of them, they are not really, they don't even have any clue. I'm sorry to say, they have zero clue about the fundamentals for delivering successful mega projects. It is your responsibility, whether as a controller, a project manager, or a leader in your business, to actually educate them. This is what it entails. And depending on what the attitude is like, you can decide that, okay, here are unusual steps that I'm going to need to take so that I can safeguard this project and I can prevent it from failing down the road. Sometimes too, some projects are well defined, but you realize that because of the type of clients that you've got, or the owners that you've got, or the stakeholder group that you've got, they won't pay you on time to fund the project so that everything keeps moving smoothly. So if you read their lessons learned in past and you saw that, what you need to now do is ask yourself, how proactive do you need to be so that you can present to them their expenditure, and they are able to start the process of getting things approved so that they don't stall your project.
Mm-hmm.
So there are different ways of doing it. And that's why I tell people, invite people like myself to your project. I'll look at the history, look at the setup, look at the team composition, because most projects that fail, they fail because of people. The people may be the stakeholders. It may be the business leadership team. It may even be the project team members, the quality of project team members. So when you say people, people is a very broad topic, and it cuts across all kinds of echelons within a typical project organization. Any other thought before my call to action? All right. You want me to continue?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And here is my call to action. I don't know who you are. I don't know what kind of project you've got. I don't know what you are envisioning for yourself in your career. We have a choice, and here's the choice. As ASA professionals, we sit at a powerful intersection today, and always, to be honest, where technical rigor meets investment reality. And this is what I'm going to leave you with. Schedule and cost do not fail on their own. They reflect the courage or compromise of earlier decisions. We can stay in the comfort of reporting numbers, or we can step forward and shape the commitment behind them. It's a choice. Gone are the days when, as a project controller, you just sit in one corner of your cubicles or your office and just crunch your numbers or crunch the timelines and hope that everything will line up. We need to be developing ourselves, engage others, and let the leaders see the values that we bring so that they can honestly seek our opinions. So that at the end of the day, we'll have a project that will stand the test of time. The future performance of a mega project is often decided in rooms where few speak up. Be the one who does. Protect the decision, and schedule and cost will follow. And here's my famous parting shot, which is more of a general thing for everybody. I want you to live with this, irrespective of what and where you function, my friends. Always look for ways to weave your values into the work you do. That way you enjoy what you do, become impactful in your role, and can inspire positive action in others. In my view, I firmly believe that it is all about aligning your internal velocity and your work. It accelerates who you are becoming. You can see a lot more of quotes like this on my website at akinoni.com. And I'm sure you'll be glad you did. On that note, I really like to thank the leaders of the AAC International San Francisco Bay Area section for this opportunity again this afternoon. And thank you all, my listeners, and those who are going to watch this recording at some point. Thank you for listening. And I welcome your thoughts. If you are interested in learning more about my upcoming books, there's The Mighty Warrior Way on the left-hand side here, which is going to be coming out the end of next month. And then there is the Mega Project Development. That is already on sale right now, and it will go into the public domain next Tuesday. So if you scan any or all of this QR code, you can just take a photo of it. And I'll try and make this slide available to Fred so that he can decide what he does with it. But to engage me, support my legacy work, which are my books. I'm actually writing 3 books. These are just 2 of them. You want to support that, or if you have any questions at all, you can scan the QR codes or go to akinoni.com/speaker or go to akinoni.com or /contact. You won't be able to reach me. I'm accessible. I may not respond to your notes immediately, but I give myself about 48 hours to respond to any request that anybody would send to me. Whether I have the answer or I don't know the answer, I'm going to find out for you. So that is really where I'm going to draw the curtain today. So thank you all so very much. And back to you, Ben or Fred. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you again. I'm just reading one. I was wondering if it's a question. Thanks for projects. Okay, I shared the LinkedIn profile and the link to your website and books and contacts and ftexenergyservices.com as well for the members to view and see, explore. Thank you so much again for your inspiring presentation. We all definitely learn a lot, and it's always basically kind of an eye opener, and then maybe our minds get kind of realigned with what we are supposed to do as an project control, project management professionals across the industry. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this webinar. I was wondering if anyone has a questions. We have still like 3 minutes left. If anyone has a question. Ben, do you have anything that you might want to add?
No, that's all. I think you covered everything. Thanks very much, Akin, for a very, very good and informative presentation. We really enjoyed that. So thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks,
Thank you so
everyone.
much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
Mr. Akin, I will
feel
share
free to connect with me on LinkedIn, anyone. I'll be very glad. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an insight. I'm happy to deliver this at any of the sections. Fred is aware.
Yes.
So you have a group. They may not even be AAC. It could be PMI group or an outside professional group, or maybe just any group. You want me to speak to them? I speak on leadership through my book, The Mighty Warrior Way. And of course, mega project development is what I've done my entire life. So I really appreciate this opportunity. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right. So I'll leave you all to do your thing. So Fred, if I'm missing anything, just drop me an email. I'll respond.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Appreciate it a lot. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.